There we go.
Thank you, Sheridan. As I was saying before, for anyone who missed it, welcome to our third Thanksgiving event, celebrating the Roosevelt Scholarship. If you're over in the States and you are celebrating Thanksgiving, or you're doing it over here, I hope you're having a great time, and thanks for making us part of your celebrations. I'm Tori Harrison, and I was privileged enough to be awarded the scholarship in 2018. And behind the scenes, on tech mainly, I've got Sheridan Chilvers sort of clicking all the buttons and making sure things go smoothly. So thanks for that, Sheridan. And thanks to everybody who's joined us online today. It's really fantastic to have you here. So without further ado, we'll just give you a little bit of a flavour of the scholarship's history. It's been going since about 1945, and it, for those who don't know, is a living memorial to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to celebrate the really close relationship between Nottingham and the States during the Second World War, endorsed by Eleanor Roosevelt and also General Eisenhower. Now, it was launched and still exists today as a personal and professional development scholarship that was started by these really prominent businesses. You know, we're all familiar with Boots, Players, and Raleigh Bicycles as well. And to this day, you know, it really involves some of the most amazing and impressive people and businesses across Nottinghamshire. And the aims of the scholarship that were the aims at the beginning of it still are very important to us today. It's about promoting cultural and industry learning between the USA and the US. And if you're one of those people who is thinking about applying, I'm sure you'll see today that it really is a life-changing opportunity. Many of you here will be scholars that have gone in the past, and we'd love to hear any stories that you have at the end. But if you are 21 or 35 to 35, between those two age brackets and living and working in Nottinghamshire, then you could be one of the people who's going on it next year. Next slide, please. So we've got a little video that just sort of encapsulates why the scholarship is so important and why it makes a difference to people. So let's hear what the scholars have to say.
To me, the scholarship is really the most amazing opportunity I could have possibly wished for. It didn't really feel like real life. I felt like I was a character being written in a book.
Before I went to America, I'd never travelled independently, and I was quite scared of doing a lot of things, and one thing it really helped me do was kind of teach me not to be afraid and to go and experience these new things, and this whole world out there that you can go and explore.
I think that the scholarship has changed me because it gave me an amazing adventure in which I could have a think and have the space to start being creative away from my job, but thinking about where my future was going to go.
The scholarship's been a fantastic opportunity to visit the States, learn more about the country, and to expand my professional network.
My confidence has soared really.
Oh, sorry about that.
Which is amazing because I'm quite a confident person anyway.
I would encourage anyone to apply for the scholarship, whether you've never travelled before or whether you're looking for your own personal development or professional development. The scholarship can provide all that.
I've realised my ability to talk to anybody, to go anywhere and not need any instruction.
I might have to think about that one for a minute.
The scholarship has completely changed the course of my career. If I'd not done it, I'm sure I would be doing something much different now. The inspiration that I took from that trip is the reason that I'm now going the way that I'm going with my job and my life.
Don't hesitate, don't feel intimidated by thinking you're not good enough to do it. Just give it a go and try, because it will be the most amazing opportunity if you get a chance to do this.
You get what you put into the scholarship. The more you research, the more you plan, the more organisations you meet, the better experience you have.
It's great. It's played a great role in my personal development because it really puts you in unexpected situations, both personally and professionally.
there's no end to the inspiration I've found in America.
The scholarship to me means opportunity, and it means family. It means allowing you to go away and kind of spread your wings and have incredible experiences, but also to be rooted in a wonderful bunch of people back here in Nottingham who've all had that life-changing experience too.
To me, it's a life-changing experience.
There's no harm in applying, so go for it would really be my advice, I think.
You can tailor this experience to you. It's not somebody else telling you what to do, it's you creating your own adventure.
If you succeed and you get the scholarship, your life will change in ways you couldn't imagine.
And that really, really brilliant video was also made by Paul Harvey, who's a 1970s Roosevelt scholar. So it really does. No one can tell you any better than the people that have been. And so I hope that really, if you haven't seen it before, sort of got across those points and encourages new scholars to apply. Welcome to anyone else that has joined us in the meantime. Let's go to the next slide, please. So next I will be welcoming on Mick Burrows. He's the chairman of our scholarship and has been for a while. He is super enthusiastic about all the alumni and the scholars, and I'm sure you'll see that when he comes to the stage next. He's also a deputy lieutenant of Nottinghamshire and the former chief executive of Nottinghamshire County Council. So please welcome Mick Burrows.
Thank you, Tori. I do think you should be on television. It's without a doubt. So great introduction, and great to see everybody here tonight. So thank you very much for joining us this evening in what are very, they shouldn't really be that busy, but they appear to be very busy times for everybody. I must first of all thank my colleague trustees, the fellow trustees, and more importantly, in some ways, the management team, who are the cogs that really make the scholarship flourish. There's a lot of other people as well who give time and energy and commitment to ensure the scholarship develops, and they do lots of things behind the scenes, which are too many things to count. However, we're here tonight to celebrate, and I'd like to, hello, does that somebody say hello darling to me? No? I'd like to also give a big welcome to Rachel and Richard, who join us as new trustees. I need to check with Russ if you passed your induction yet, because I think you are still on probation. But anyway, there you go, another story there. But it's great to have you two on board, bringing new energy into the scholarship. Also, well done to Sam and Henry. Superb scholarships. Yet again, another real mark in the sand. I'm sure you will both be an inspiration for Natalie and Zaimal, who are this year's successful scholars, and welcome to you two as well. Welcome on board to something that is unique, it's special, and we're very privileged to have it here in Nottinghamshire. Russ and Sheridan reminded me when we were preparing for this, that I've been the chairman now. I've had the honour of being the chairman for 5 years. What surprises me and worries me in a way is how quickly that's gone, which is a bit frightening, but it's also how much I have enjoyed being at the centre with you of such a fantastic initiative. And I continuously stand in awe and at the personal and community achievemements that scholars continue to make. Every time I meet one of you and listen to where you are now and what you've been doing and what you're contributing back either into your own organisation or into a wider community, or doing things that transform lives, I think this is so rich and special and so precious. So I'm delighted to still be here. I asked people about 6 months ago, I said, look, I might have gone past my sell-by date now. Do you want me to step aside and let somebody younger take the helm? And they all said, no, not yet. They did say not yet. So there could be another moment somewhere. But anyway, I am so delighted to be here with you in this special moment. The future is being shaped by world events. The world's changed. The whole world's almost flipped on its head over the past 18 months. I think local government, businesses, they're all in a slightly different place to where they were 18 months, 2 years ago. And I think, and we all agreed, that we need to rethink where the scholarship needs to be for the future. So with the aid of Richard Donovan, who's head of global affairs and national affairs for Experian, Rich has been absolutely superb in guiding our thinking and challenging us, and this is management team and a number of trustees, in where we need to go next, how we're going to make sure the scholarship flourishes into the future. So there's new challenges, refreshed thinking. We're just realigning the mission statement so it's got more zing to it, because actually a mission statement with more than 3 lines in it sort of loses the will to live by the time you've got to the last line. So we're doing something, we're practicing with each other what these new statements are going to mean, keeping the essence of what we're about, keeping the heart of what we're about, but reshaping where the scholarship might go. The aim, by the way, don't forget, is to have 5 scholars a year. That's where we're trying to get to, 5 scholars a year. That's what this scholarship deserves to have happening to it, because it's so special, so unique, so life-changing. Finally, from me, good to see you all again virtually. Hopefully next year we can combine a virtual and in-person live event together. I don't know how we do that. Sheridan will tell me how we can work that one out. And I should just say a big special thanks to everybody who's helped make tonight special. And if you're reading anything, by the way, into the fact that the 2 flags behind me have a larger American one than a smaller national one for us, it's only because they're the only ones I could find in my toy box. So it's back to Tori with thanks, and nice to see everybody. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mick. Great to hear from you. Okay, let's go to our next slide, please, Sheridan. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Miles Waghorn on. He was a scholar in 2017 and has done some very impressive things since then. At the age of 26, he had 2 successful businesses, and he's going to speak to us about his success and also what the scholarship means to him. So please, over to you, Miles. You just need to pop off mute there, Miles, and we'll be ready to go.
There we go. That's better, isn't it? Normally helps. Had a few different. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
All good. Excellent. Yeah, I'll start off by saying it's not past tense. I still have those businesses, Tori. So hopefully it's not just had anymore. They're still in existence, which is a good start. So as Tori quite rightly said, I was a scholar in 2017, and I could today just go on about my scholarship and what I did on it, but I think A, I've covered that in previous events, and B, most importantly, and I think quite apt, given what was just discussed by Mick and the future, it's worth talking about the impact the scholarship has had for me and the wider community. I'll start off by just saying that I want to explain where the company came from. So I am founder and CEO of Tech Silver, technology for the silver generation, if you hadn't already worked that out. That's my beloved father, picture I took many years ago in my garden, and he's very proud to still be the poster boy or poster man of I dread to think the day I have to tell him he's no longer the poster boy of the company. So let's start off with a little bit of background about TechSil, where the idea came from. Apologies to those of you who've already heard this. I did business management and entrepreneurship at Nottingham Trent University, and part of that course was to come up with a business idea, which I was very grateful to have, because up until then I felt like my degree hadn't really had any entrepreneurship in it. It was all business theory. So I was really excited by this prospect. And at the time I worked in Azad in the technology department, and older people would regularly come and talk to me at my desk, and I was more than happy to help them. I much preferred that to stacking shelves. Dare I say, I was a little bit overqualified for for that too. And this happened more and more often. I loved talking to older people. I loved hearing their wisdom and their stories, and I loved helping them with their gadgets. And then one evening, a gentleman was brought in a mobile phone. I was helping him, I believe, at a contact. And I was looking at the phone thinking, I'm not sure if we actually sell this. I look at the glass cabinet behind me where we keep the mobile phones and realized we don't even sell this phone. So I said to the gentleman, I mean, I don't mind helping you, but I don't think you bought this phone here. He said, oh, no. Vera told me to come see Miles down Asda's. Apparently you're the guy I need to see for something's wrong with my technology. So I'd inadvertently become the drop-in tech clinic for the people of Kettering, my beloved hometown. And that dropped a penny drop for me, right? I realized there's got to be a gap in the market for a tech retailer that focuses on service and not just stacking it high and selling it cheap. Some people are willing to pay a bit more to have that holistic personal service. So that was in the back of my mind when I had to come up with a business idea. At the same time, my grandmother, my late grandmother now, sadly, but she was alive when I went on the scholarship. And she used to have lots of problems around the house. If any of you have ever seen Catherine Tate, the character on there used to swear a lot and sometimes say things are not quite PC. I think that represented her quite well, God rest her soul. And when she was watching films on TV and the adverts came on, the volume went sky high. She used to F and blind and mute the TV, and then bless her, she'd fall asleep and miss the rest of the film. So I used to think there must be a way to regulate the TV volume. And sure enough, I found a product from the USA that kind of regulates the TV volume. I bought one for her and it was rubbish, but it got me thinking, I wonder what other technology products are out there for the senior generation. So I knew there was a gap in the market for service, personal service, from my time at Asda. I knew there was lots of tech products out there for older people after doing research, but not available in one place. And I knew from studying economics that we had an aging population. And so the market was growing rapidly. And even if I did a half-baked job, I still hopefully would have a bit of success given the growth of the market. So those sort of ideas were amalgamated together. And in 2014, I launched Tech Silver while studying at Nottingham Trent University. So let's fast forward. So I keep changing the slides on the wrong presentation into what we do. So we started off with consumer electronics, things like big button keyboards for the visually impaired, easy to use mobile phones, music players for people with dementia. And we still sell lots of those. But I quickly realized that you'll get out Amazoned by Amazon unless you have a unique offering. We're never going to compete on price. We're never going to compete on, 3-minute delivery or whatever Bezos has got up his sleeve next. So I realized in order to be successful, we needed to pivot and find our niche, or niche, as the beloved Americans amongst us call it. The riches are in the niches is one of my favorite sayings I have, actually. So I saw a GPS watch on a competitor's website. This is for people with dementia that go missing, so their loved ones can locate them. It was badly explained. There wasn't very good photos. And I thought, I could explain that better. Going back to my time at Asda, I knew that I could take complex things and explain them in a simple way. So we brought that product on, and sure enough, overnight, we were first page of Google after writing a really good description. And so now we have moved much more into what's called technology-enabled care. Essentially what that does is enables people, but normally older people or those with some kind of sensory or mental impairment, to live independently in their own home. And this is crucial. I'm talking quickly, I've got a lot to go through, so I won't hark on about it. If any of you have seen the delays in the white paper in the care sector in the UK, we all know that there's not enough carers, there's too many people that need caring for, and there's not enough money to look after them. The only solution is going to be technology, otherwise we have a dire situation on our hands. And I'm happy to say now, actually from about late 2019, we are the UK and Ireland's leading provider of technology-enabled care to the consumer market. And that's an important differentiation I'll come on to later. So not selling to care homes or the NHS or local authorities, directly into people's homes. So I went on the scholarship in 2017. This is a lovely photo I took from the top of One World Trade. I do sell prints if you're interested. And so I thought I'd quickly start, I don't, but it's worth a try. I'll start off with showing you what I did, my trip. I did 6 weeks, traveled over 10,000 kilometers, 7 flights, 13 cities. And if I'm honest, I probably crammed too much in. So an advice for the future scholars amongst us, take your time, try not to do everything you can, because you can end up missing out. I probably spent more time in airports than I did in hotels or people's houses, but you know, not a miss, because some incredible opportunities came out of it. And let me focus on one in particular. I'm going to fast forward to down at the bottom there to Houston, Texas, where I first met the CEO of GrandPad, Scott Lean. GrandPad is a tablet for seniors. When I say seniors, I mean those over 75 and 80 who have had no prior experience with technology. My grandfather's 94, he's got a Kindle, he's got an Echo, and he's a whiz. So those of you who are in that age group, don't think this is aimed at you. It's for those who have had no experience with technology and therefore will be cut off from society and their loved ones. A really quick funny story that I'll tell you. I was in the hotel lobby in this hotel in Houston. I asked for a restaurant recommendation. They told me a Chinese restaurant 2 blocks away was really nice. So I go to walk towards a pedestrian exit and they said, "Sir, where are you going?" I said, "I'm just walking to that restaurant." They said, but the parking lot's over there. And I was like, "Yeah, I know. It's only 2 blocks away." And they looked at me with disgust, like, you're actually walking. And it didn't take me long after getting beeped at on the highway that in Texas, and particularly in Houston, you take your truck. It doesn't matter whether it's next door or a 10-minute drive or a 2-hour drive, you take your truck. So I learned that very quickly. I was on a video call with Scott, the CEO of GrandPad, and we aligned really well on our values and wanting to help older people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of companies in our sector that are in it to just make money and not have an impact in the world. So we aligned really closely. We knew we had potential to work together, but nothing had happened off the back of that call. So fast forward now to June 2018, so 1 year later. This is me in the Hive in Nottingham Trent University with the COO of GrandPad, the guy to my left, and 2 people from Home Instead, based in Omaha. They're the world's largest provider of in-home care. So care is going into people's houses. They sent them over to meet with me because they wanted Tech Silver to provide the customer service for GrandPad to sell to care homes and businesses in the UK. Now, we worked through it, and at the time I was a bit small. Actually, my first employee, it was his first day when they came in, and I was like, for God's sake, whatever you do, make us look bigger than we are. And what did he say when they said, "What do you do here?" He said, "I don't know, it's my first day." So that probably didn't help, but luckily that didn't scupper any opportunities of working together. So that kind of fell by the wayside. It wasn't our strategy to be a support agent for someone else. We wanted to be a retailer. So then fast forward to November 2019, Scott, the CEO I'd met in Houston, reached out and said, "Miles, we're ready to launch in the UK, B2C, so selling directly to consumers." I thought, great, this is exactly what we want to do. We know the market, we know America, we know your product, but we also know the UK. And we became the exclusive retailer of GrandPad in the UK and Ireland. We'd done that by sort of February 2020. So between November and February, just 3 or 4 months, we were able to get everything set up, integrate technologically, and be selling the GrandPad. We timed it quite well, and if anything positive came out of the pandemic, is it shone a light on an existing pandemic, and that is isolated older people. I saw a stat that I always quote from Age UK that said that over 1 million older people in the UK haven't spoke to anyone in the last month. And if you think about what that actually means, that's horrific. So we're quite lucky that the COVID pandemic and the lockdown restrictions meant that a light was shone on the need for something like the GrandPad. So very quickly, interest just skyrocketed. People were fighting to have them in their elderly loved ones' homes. And I'm happy to say since then, we've sold thousands to people across the UK and Ireland. We actually managed to get it on BBC World Service. So this is April 2020. This is I would show you the clip. It's on YouTube if you want to look at it. Just Google GrandPad BBC. We got it on BBC World Service and BBC News, as well as East Suffolk Council bought 50 to help the isolated older people. This is Sylvia, bless her, who was on the local ITN News using her GrandPad. And they've since bought another 200, and it's a huge part of what they use to help the most vulnerable and isolated amongst us to stay connected with their loved ones and do things like do their own shopping and remain independent. And not only did East Suffolk Council, many other charities and businesses buy into the GrandPad because of that partnership, because I went on the scholarship. We've managed to get it on oh no, how many news outlets is that? About 15, 35 actually in total. I just picked the best ones there, from BBC to Tech Radar to Financial Times, and which even ranked it 9 out of 10, which is 9, impossible to get. So we got fantastic publicity throughout the pandemic, and it's not only promoted the GrandPad, but it supported Tech Silver's growth. This is a line graph showing our sales in thousands. So 2017, I went on the scholarship, we turned over 36,000. The next year is 186. The next year is 390. But then look at that gap between 390, 2019 and 2020, that's when we brought on the GrandPad. And as you can see, our turnover almost tripled to over £1 million, purely, well, not purely, but very much to do with that relationship with the GrandPad. So that's helped us grow as a company, and I'll come on to the impact that's had for the local people of Nottinghamshire. Sorry, I'm flying at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but I have a lot to get through. So, oh yeah, and there's an arrow just showing you that gap, and that gap was when we brought on the GrandPad, and I got the GrandPad because I went on the scholarship. You see these knock-on effects we're seeing here. So what's next? And this is a scoop for you guys. I haven't told anyone outside of Tech Silver. I have some really exciting news. So we sell a GPS watch in the UK. As you can see, it's a bit clunky, but it's the best in class. It tracks people's locations who go missing, who have dementia, and they can alert their loved ones, press an SOS button if they need emergency services, and lots of other fantastic things. Now, what we have managed to do is go directly to the manufacturer. We normally work through a middle company. We've gone directly to the manufacturer in Finland, and we have secured exclusive B2C distribution for the United States on their next iteration. So as you can see, the gap between those two in terms of aesthetics is huge. Mainly, there's a much more female orientated design, which you asked me was a long time coming. I could spend all day talking about the difference between these two devices, the one I just showed you and this new one, but let's put this in perspective. The best-selling GPS watch in the USA, the battery lasts between 12 hours and 24 hours. This device, the battery lasts between 2 and 3 weeks. If you imagine you're looking after a loved one, you're having to go into their home to charge their watch every day, that's not ideal. So this is really industry-changing stuff. And we, Tech Silver in the UK, have exclusive distribution across the whole of the United States for this product. And it will be our product. It won't say Navigal on it. It will say Tech Silver on it. Our packaging, our people, our brand, purely because of knock-on effects from the scholarship. So let's go on about the impact that it's actually had. Some incredible impact. So the company profile has been elevated, and the opportunities, the doors that have been opened as a result of saying we work with GrandPad. There's so many other things that have come as a result. Opportunities for the people of Nottinghamshire. So not only are we, of course, paying our taxes and helping to provide things that way, but we've got 5 full-time employees. I had 0 when I went on the scholarship, but we're actually about to hire another 6 people to help us deliver support in the United States. So that's 11 young people from Nottinghamshire who've all got full-time secure employment in a growing company, helping the world, helping older people as a direct result of the scholarship. And last, but most importantly, we've helped thousands, and if you include their loved ones, millions of older people who are isolated, lonely, or at risk of danger, for example, from going missing. And that for me is the most important one. And I think what I'd like to do is round up this presentation with this handwritten letter, which somebody sent us the other day. I'll have to get really close here to read it. To the Tech Silver team, I would just like to say a massive thank you for the service you provide. Because of throat cancer, our father couldn't talk during his final months. And although he was unable to use many of the features on the GrandPad, family were able to connect with him using photos and through music. For this, we will be eternally grateful. It eased some of the terrible isolation and fear he endured during those awful months. Any contact I've had with your team members has been extremely positive, from the initial setup while Dad was in hospital to disabling the phone aspect of the device so that Dad was never put under the stress of receiving a phone call which he would not be able to answer. And the final email when I contacted Tech Silver after Dad's passing. Many thanks once more and best wishes to all the Tech Silver team. Yours sincerely, Anne. I think if anything rounds up the knock-on effect of a knock-on effect of a knock-on effect of what the scholarship can do, that letter sums it up nicely. But what's important to remember about the scholarship is it might just be one domino, but who knows what the other dominoes down the way will be when you start and knock off that first one. So apologies, I was going at 100 miles an hour. I really wanted to get it all in. Thank you so much. Well done to all the future scholars, and please apply if you're thinking of doing so, because it's genuinely changed my life and thousands of others. So thank you very much. I've got to go before the end of the event because I'm off to Leeds to DJ, believe it or not, but I'm welcome to answer any questions if you want to get in touch afterwards. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Miles. How wonderful. Well done for, seeing the riches in the niches, as you put it. And it really is great to see how the scholarship has changed your life, but also the lives of so many other people. And thanks for being here today. Thanks for supporting the scholarship in so many ways. We're so grateful.
Sorry. I'm just going to do one thing if I can.
Round of applause for Miles. Really, really wonderful stuff. And due to time, I think we're going to have to skip through and go straight on. But thank you, Miles, and good luck DJing with your second business, still going strong, as they both are, as we all know. Wonderful stuff. So next, I'd like to pass the reins over to Sam Lutz. She was a 2019 Roosevelt Scholar, and today is a policy advisor for Net Zero Public Engagement, BEIS. Over to you, Sam. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Tori, and yeah, thanks everyone who's come tonight, and to the other speakers. Miles, that was so inspiring and a bit of a tough act to follow, but I will do my best. Is my screen showing okay?
Yes, it's fine. Do you want to put it on full screen?
Yes. Fab, thanks. So yeah, as Tori said, I'm quite a recent alumni. I did my scholarship in 2019, and I was looking at the sustainability stories of US cities with an emphasis on the role of the citizen. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that and what I found. I haven't actually ever spoken about this in public, believe it or not, because of the pandemic. So I'll give it a crack. But I'm also going to try and fit in a bit about the impact that it's had on me, as Miles was very eloquently articulating the kind of knock-on effects. And then as my title suggests, I had the privilege of going to COP26 recently in the Blue Zone, which was pretty amazing. So I'm also going to tell a few tales from COP as well. I've snuck in some pictures from my crappy little camera phone from when I went out, and I've kind of put the location on them because I'll probably forget to mention. So yeah, today I'm just going to start by telling you a bit more about the scholarship, then kind of the next steps, and then finally a few of my experiences at COP.
On like placements.
Oh, I think maybe someone needs to go on mute. Yeah. So when I took my scholarship, I was behaviour change officer at Nottingham City Council in energy services. So they were kind of the department who were responsible for kind of climate action. And it really did feel like the perfect time to go and do this piece of work, because we'd just announced our ambition to be the UK's first carbon neutral city. And then over on the other side of the Atlantic, there's a massive buzz around this kind of new Green New Deal. And that, of course, was based on none other than Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal policy. So it really did kind of feel like it was meant to be. So my project did attract quite a few questions, considering the attitude, shall we say, of the Trump administration to climate or the sort of the lack of. But actually, as I found out, there was sort of no better time to go, because all of these cities, they felt that absence of leadership at the federal level, and so they were taking matters into their own hands. And actually, the amount of kind of action and innovation at local level was phenomenal. So yeah, it was really actually very difficult to narrow down where to go, but after a lot of research I settled on the locations you can see here. So I flew to DC first, I flew to New York, then went straight to DC to kind of get a picture of the kind of national policy landscape, to kind of set the scene for the local stuff that was to come. So I got to talk to the environmental policy leads of senators and other Congress people, and that in itself was like very varied and absolutely fascinating. And then DC actually itself is a very, very progressive city when it comes to climate. So that was a great start. And then I went to Boston, New York, briefly to Detroit. It's kind of a last minute stop. And then Chicago, Minneapolis / St. Paul, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and then I went to this amazing conference called Behavior, Energy and Climate Change, which I heard about. It alternates between Sacramento and DC, and I knew about it and never thought I'd be able to go, but I kind of wangled my way in, as you do when you have that kind of Roosevelt name to your belt. And then I went to LA, where I met my now husband. Fun fact, but that's another story. And then over to Honolulu for a week, which was probably the best week of my life. Back to LA, and then home. So it was an amazing adventure. And in each city, I sort of aimed primarily to talk to city governments, but then also to universities to figure out kind of the innovation that was happening when it comes to kind of city climate partnerships, then business and networks, which has really benefited my now role, because I've actually landed in climate business engagement, and then also nonprofits and community groups as well, where actually I found like most of the coolest stuff was happening anyway. And I was really fascinated by the partnerships between these institutions as well, because I wanted to kind of do a lot more with other local organizations back home. So I actually fit in, I think, 160, 170 meetings and events. So like Miles crammed a lot in. It's difficult. I think I did have to sacrifice quite a lot of the cultural side of things, but I don't think I regret any of it. It was just absolutely fascinating. And yeah, I just, it couldn't have been more perfect for kind of my personal growth and my professional career, as it turned out as well. So now is like the slide that I'm absolutely dreading, like how am I supposed to distill everything that I learned in a minute or a couple of minutes, but I'm just going to kind of pick out a few of the many exciting examples that I came across. Let me just make sure I'm on my. So yeah, I'll start with like the sort of bold messaging that I came across that I found really fascinating. Just some things were really simple but effective. There's a little bubble picture there you can see. So on the metro in DC, there's this message that popped up that says CO2 causes hurricanes, take the metro, which absolutely blew my mind. So I thought, you know, that's the kind of powerful messaging that we need and could easily be using without spending any money at home, but we're just completely neglecting to do so. Then there was like fantastic faith alliance groups as well. So I went to a couple of meetings that was sort of collating many different religions all in one room, all very passionate about climate. Again, obviously Nottingham is very multicultural, so I thought that would be potentially a fantastic idea for home. In San Francisco, meanwhile, they were employing an artist in residency to make art out of the city's waste, to kind of make statements and encourage people to be better with their reuse and recycling. In Detroit, despite its reputation of being this kind of car city, again, as Miles was saying, that kind of culture of just not walking, they actually had the most incredible recycling center, and people would go there because it was so beautiful just to hang out and socialize. And I thought that was kind of like very revolutionary, sort of turning green behavior on its head, and rather than a chore, it's something that people really wanted to do. So yeah, that was pretty amazing as well. I saw sort of various reuse warehouses. One that I particularly liked was EcoSet in LA. So they'd actually charge big studios to drop off their sets and their materials, and then people in the community, like artists and directors, etc., they'd come and pick things up for free, which was kind of the opposite model of others. In New York, they have these massive digester eggs, where food waste will be sent to be turned into energy for the city, and it's actually a tourist attraction. Like someone I interviewed in the UN she had had an article written about her because she'd been there on a date on Valentine's Day. Again, really turning environmentalism on its head, I think. And then in Minneapolis, people will strap, like citizens will strap air quality monitors to their bikes, and that's how the city government will measure air quality and getting really high quality frequent data while doing that kind of citizen engagement piece as well. So yeah, I really could go on and on. One of the most amazing things was actually nationwide and very simple. It's called the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, and that was kind of a network between all of the, so I guess my counterparts, like the people who were kind of leading on sustainability engagement for their city, and it was just amazing how well connected they all were. So it's like everything that I found amazing had been pinched from another city, and so I'd talk to someone in, say, like Evanston, a very small city in North Chicago, and they'd know exactly who I was going to meet in Honolulu. Like, they're just all so tight knitted, and I thought that's something we're really lacking at home. Like, I wanted to know what was going on in Bristol and Manchester, etc. So I actually did go some way to initiating a similar network when I got back, but then got waylaid with a new job and whatnot. So you never know, it might still happen, but I found that absolutely amazing. So a bit about what I did do when I got back. Carbon Neutral Nottingham, we've sort of starting to launch our brand, and with my kind of newfound confidence and worldview, I kind of reimagined my own role. So up until then, I had been really exclusively doing energy efficiency engagement with our own staff in the council, trying to save money. But then I've kind of realized that no one was doing citywide climate engagement. So like, why not? Why don't I just do that? I had a pretty chill manager, so I kind of I just went for it, and I started a campaign called the 28-Day Challenge, which was probably the most crazy month of my whole life. So reaching out to local partners. So we had Nottingham Contemporary, we had Nottingham Forest, we had NHS, just all different local artists and organisations, but I think over 30 of them created some content for us every day for a month, and it was COVID friendly, and it was zero budget, and it was also creating content that would then live on forever theoretically, and actually it has. I see it retweeted all the time, so it has a bit of a legacy, and that was absolutely, I've got some sort of screenshots here. It was absolutely the product of what I was learning about in America. There was such a massive focus there on storytelling. I remember, for example, someone saying, I think it was the project was The Power of Minnesota, and they were saying that nobody really connects with a solar panel, but they absolutely connect with a formerly incarcerated citizen who has transformed his life by training to install solar panels. So then that really started to get me thinking about how we can make climate change come to life for different audiences at home. So we had a songwriting competition, we had a scavenger hunt, we had a sewing class, trying to think about how we can reach people like football fans who wouldn't necessarily ever come across climate otherwise. So that's probably my proudest and most grand achievement, and I feel like it's like a direct result of the scholarship, and not just kind of content wise, but also just the confidence to approach so many people in such a short space of time. Having done that hundreds of times over in a foreign land, it just felt kind of easy and natural when I got back to do that kind of outreach. And that's not even to mention the community engagement as well, getting kind of like regular local people involved as well. And we massively increased our social media following as well, which was kind of the whole point of the launch. So yeah, absolutely. Just I wasn't expecting the impact of the scholarship to be so powerful and so quick, and that was just within a matter of months. Another kind of avenue that it kind of showed up in, I applied to be in ED's 30 under 30 group for, I guess it's sustainability, the next generation of sustainability leaders. I'm reading off the screen now. And that's pretty competitive. I don't know if this audience probably isn't familiar with ED, but it's kind of the UK's like major sustainability news outlet, and I'd read their blogs every single day. It was where I got all my news from, and it felt like worlds away from me, like really, really cool and exciting. And basically my application was very short, 200 words, and it was just basically what I did in America, and I made the cut. So again, I feel like that's kind of a direct consequence of the scholarship, and that absolutely opened lots and lots of doors, and connected me with kind of the more corporate sustainability world as well, which again has really benefited my now role in the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. So speaking of which, I got the job in the UK government civil service this time last year. So I started January 2021. And quite quickly, I was kind of whisked away, and I was part of a team of 2 to work on a COP26 campaign. And I could talk about that for days as well, but just to keep it short, essentially we were trying to get as many small businesses in the UK to join the UN's Race to Zero. So that is the largest alliance of organisations all over the world committed to net zero emissions by 2050 at the latest. I actually did start a transatlantic working group as well with all my US contacts, so trying to help them to emulate what we were doing in the US. So that's starting to take off as well, which is really exciting. And of course, that's an obvious another direct consequence. But yeah, we went to COP having contributed 80% of global sign-ups, so obviously that's a big success, and I managed to wangle my way into the blue zone as well for 3 days as well. So I don't know how I'm doing on time, probably not very well. Oh, I think yeah, maybe 30 seconds to go, so I'll just briefly talk through my experience of the blue zone. Essentially, I was completely overwhelmed. I wanted to clone myself. I kind of naively thought, oh, I'll just, kind of casually go between the We Mean Business Pavilion and the UK Pavilion, which is where kind of my events were taking place. But there was just so much to see, and the quality of speakers were absolutely phenomenal. So in terms of what I was actually doing, there was a competition ceremony for small businesses that I was there to support. So that went really well. And I was also speaking on a roundtable. Nico Rosberg was like 2 from me. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I talked to my dad afterwards. And yeah, retrospectively, that's really exciting, I think. But yeah, generally, I was just kind of in absorb mode, which was a really nice place to be. I learned a lot about kind of climate messaging, which I'm naturally drawn to. There was lots of US talks on that, actually. And then lots about climate finance as well, which is increasingly important to my role, and which at the moment I don't know too much about. And then also health. I think someone said this is environmental COP26, but it's health COP1, which really stuck with me. And yeah, that is increasingly a very important part of the picture, I think. So yeah, I think I feel like I should have landed on a more poignant point, but I know we're tight on time, so I will leave it there and hand back to Tori. And if anyone has any questions, obviously I'm here at the end.
Thank you, Sam. I'm sure.
Sorry.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone is giving you a round of applause, and that was amazing. It is so awesome to see how the scholarship has supercharged your career already. And I'm sure that everyone would agree with me to say that if you could clone yourself, the world would be a much better place, because it's already a really great place with you in it and doing everything that you're doing. So thank you, Sam. Good job. So let's go back to our slides, and the next one. Now I'm going to welcome, if we go to the next slide, Sheridan, our new scholars. And we're just going to welcome Zaimal and then Natalie, just to spend a few minutes just telling us what their projects are going to be. It's great to welcome them. And, these 2 new scholars have been sort of waiting to go, but they've been working really hard, even though in planning their journeys and working with their mentors at the scholarship, even though the travel plans have been a little bit delayed by the pandemic. So I'd like to welcome Zaimal. Please come on and let everybody know what your scholarship plans are.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be here. I remember being at the Thanksgiving event last year and just being so, I think just blown away really by not just what everybody had achieved and all of the experiences that people were sharing about the scholarship, but that that family that it seemed to be, that family of alumni, and it was just so amazing to watch. And I remember just thinking after that how amazing it would be to be part of that. And my application had been sort of midway between that because it was COVID and everything had been paused. And I think because that period of application was so long as well, I remember this event actually just giving me such a new lease of energy in really wanting to make this happen for myself and being part of it. So it's so good to be here today as a scholar, as compared to last year where I really wanted to be a scholar. So this is amazing. So I'm Senior Campaigns Officer at the Foster Society, which is a gender equality charity. We campaign across the UK. Before this, I was the lead for hate crime for Nottingham City Council, which is what kind of led me to my project, which is so what I will be looking at when I travel to the US is exploring the American experience of bridging divides and finding healing across difference of identity, but also difference of opinion. And when I started to think about this and started to develop it, it was, this was 2 years ago. So this was before COVID. This was also before the murder of George Floyd. It was before a lot of the conversation that's been happening over the past year. And it was important then, but it feels especially important now. And what I really want to go and see is how do communities and how do people find healing when something like that happens that really fractures, what people think of when they think of community and themselves, but also how do you build consensus? How do you get, how do you get to a point where you can actually coexist even if you disagree? We've seen so much polarization, both in terms of politics over the past 2 years, but also if you look at the response to COVID and things like that. So I think it's going to be really interesting to look at, especially in the US, and I'm really keen to explore what that looks like across the different parts of the US, because I think this agenda is very different based on both political opinion, but also community groups or universities or what different parts of society are doing around this. So if anybody's got any suggestions or ideas, please do drop them my way. Tori, who's my brilliant mentor, all knows how long my list is already, and she will probably not want anything else to be added to it, but please do tell me if there is anything you think I should specifically look at or anybody I should meet or talk to. And I'm just so excited and absolutely cannot wait for next summer, which is when I hope to go.
Fabulous. Thank you, Zaimal. Great to hear from you. And I think, if anything, Miles and Sam have showed us that you can achieve a lot. So it's your scholarship and I'm going to support you anyway. So let's welcome Natalie now. That was brilliant, Zaimal. So Natalie Rudyj, she is a business advisor at the Business and IP Centre, and again, a 2021 scholar. So please welcome Natalie.
Hello, everybody. I'd just like to echo what Zaimal said as well. I attended this event last year as an applicant, asking loads of questions and hearing everybody's kind of experience. So it's really exciting to be here this year as a scholar and sharing my plans with everybody. And I absolutely loved hearing from Sam and Miles. It was so engaging and inspiring, and I feel really excited and privileged to be part of such an unique experience. So when I applied for the scholarship, I was actually, so I've kind of been floating around the economic development area with Nottingham City Council. So I was actually working on an employment project. So since then I've started working with the Business and IP Centre from libraries across the county, offering business and intellectual property advice to aspiring entrepreneurs and startups. So I'm kind of 2 months into the role. It's really exciting, and I'm really excited to be able to kind of embark on this journey and hopefully make some great connections and learn some amazing things to bring back. So my research project whilst I'm in America will be based on economic development. And since the pandemic kind of happened since I applied, I will be looking at how recovery methods being implemented to help people back into employment and engage people into starting new businesses and entrepreneurships and those kind of new areas of employability. So I will be visiting government offices to see what their employment initiatives are. And a big thing that I really want to do is visit different libraries across America and look at what resources and events and activities they have, which are available for not just job seekers, but for aspiring entrepreneurs. I'm also hoping that along the way, I will be introduced or find some smaller organisations that are engaging with those minority groups and harder to reach groups, and how they are kind of preparing them for new ways of working and inspiring them into looking at entrepreneurship as a possibility, because I know that not everybody sees that as a possibility. So I'm really keen to see creative methods used there. So I've just seen someone say, look at Seattle Library. Seattle is somewhere I am planning to go. So yeah, I'll definitely put that onto my list. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think the thing I'm really excited about is in the UK, we have kind of a blanket legislation around employability in schools, delivering employment support in schools, and the employment projects that are kind of rolled out. So it would be nice to see the contrast in how different states tackle unemployment and different methods used. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be part of the scholarship family and hear more stories from everybody and share my experience when I get back.
Another really worthwhile project. Thank you so much, Natalie. Awesome. I really can't wait to see what both Zaimal and Natalie do. So we're getting towards the time that we should start to ask our questions, but I'd just like to move to the next slide before we do. The scholarship really does exist because of the goodwill of a lot of people with us this evening, and just a lot of volunteering, a lot of amazing contributions. So if anyone is thinking about how to get involved anyway, as we said before, you can apply for the scholarship. We'll be opening up for new applications in the new year in January. You have to be 21 to 35 years old and live or work in Nottinghamshire. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll be interviewing in the spring. If you're a business, do consider giving an opportunity, sending an employee and using CSR budget or CPD. You could match fund an employee. And also, please, as an individual, please give what you can. If you've benefited from the scholarship, especially, we really appreciate any sort of contribution in time, funds, or any connections that you do have in the States or over here. Your expertise is really, really appreciated, as well as any sort of financial contribution, which really helps us send the new scholars and keep going. There's lots of different ways you can do that, and you can have a look on the website if you're interested, or have a chat with me sometime. Next slide, please, Sheridan. So we are going to be moving to our networking opportunity here, and we're going to be opening the floor to any questions that you may have. I think Rachel will hopefully be joining me on screen to do this. So let's see if we can go to sort of into a grid view and have a look at everybody. It might also be nice to have a bit of a group photo if people are up for it, because if I was at a physical event, I'd be gathering you all together and saying, let's have a group photo. And seeing as we're online, it would be lovely if people would pop back on screen, give us a wave and a smile if you fancy it, just to say we're here and we're looking forward to the future of the scholarship and Thanksgiving. So let's give that a go, shall we? Right. And I think, Sheridan, are you happy to take the photo? Yes, you are. Okay, let's do it. Everybody give a smile and wave and come on camera if you can. Lovely. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Righto. So thanks for that. That was great. It's always better to warn people so they're not sort of looking elsewhere or thinking about what's for dinner. So we'll move to some questions now, I think. Rachel, are you here with us as well? Fabulous.
Hello, I'm here. I've been sat in wonderment listening to all of that. You know, I've knew about your projects long before, guys, but to Miles and to Sam, never stop being amazed by what you've achieved, and I'm really excited to see what Zaimal and Natalie get up to as well. I see we still have Miles as well, so I think it's probably a good place to start to see if anybody has direct questions for Miles and for Sam, or indeed advice for Natalie or for Zaimal. Unsolicited but helpful, I'm sure. So if at any point you do have those things you want to contribute, there's Zoom, we all know by now, we've been doing it for 2 years, but there is a hand up function. So if you don't just want to come on your screen and shout out, if you pop your hand up, I will come to you. So any questions, do shout out. Until we have those, Sam, I know we ran out of time, but I'm super intrigued by the COP stuff. And I can't be the only one on this call who doesn't know what the blue room is. You're saying I snuck into the blue room. Please update us. What is the blue room?
Yeah, sorry, I should have absolutely clarified. So COP was split into the green zone, which is like for the public, which was hard enough to get into, where there was lots of kind of exhibitions and lots of art and kind of informal stuff. And then the blue zone is like super hard to get into, where all the international negotiations are. And there's like a bunch of pavilions. So each kind of country has their pavilion and they're showing what work they're doing at national level. And then there's kind of the methane moment, and then like the health pavilion and the water pavilion and the what was it, the WWF. So, you know, it's like kind of like the really sought after official space. And yeah, it's really like everyone I spoke to when I was at the Fringe events was saying that I was the only person they known who'd seen the inside of the blue zone. So yeah, I did a good job at getting in there. Yeah.
Oh man, incredible. Okay, well that answers that question. And I guess the other one I have on my lips, which is maybe a bit difficult to answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway, is having been there, how do you feel about kind of our prospects for tackling climate change going forward? Are you hopeful? Are you, I hope, hopeful and not still very concerned? Yeah, what are your kind of thoughts and feelings on that?
I'm an optimist. I don't think there's any point in worrying about it. I just pour all of our energy into the solutions, I think. I'm also really lucky now, being in Bays, to be kind of on the inside of the net zero strategy. And at the moment they're doing these policy teach-ins. So the net zero strategy essentially like breaks down how we're going to get to net zero by 2050. And so the authors of each chapter are holding like half-hour sessions here and there, and they're just talking through, like they're kind of bringing it to life, which is great, and taking questions on it. So I'm very much kind of immersed in that. Like, are we going to go through the electrification route or the hydrogen route? Is it going to be blue hydrogen or green hydrogen? And I just feel like, yeah, it's happening. So yeah, that's my stance, is like, don't chill out, like worry about it, but do something about it. Okay. And we all have, I think also we can all play a part, like whatever our skill set, whether it's fundraising, whether it's in business, whether it's doing a PhD, like every single human on this planet has a part to play. And so don't just think it's just for science or engineers, like it's scientists or engineers, it's literally everyone.
Well, I mean, if that doesn't inspire you. Oh, okay, Miles, we have a question from Miles for Sam, and then Miles, I have questions for you. So well done on delaying those. So Miles says, is buying a new electric car worse for the environment than running an existing petrol or diesel? Is he greenwashing by buying a Tesla?
And I'll add to that I know that there's a lot of variables in that. It depends how old the car is, but I wanted an inside info as to whether, because I know there's a lot of manufacturing that goes into making a new car and all the miles of shipping those lithium ion batteries around the world that are super heavy. So just a top-down approach. I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm not going to bring you in the Tesla garage and tell the salesman I'm not buying one because Sam said it's worth the environment. But I'm really interested what the inside info is. Is it actually worth getting one at this stage, or is it better for the environment, should I say?
Yeah, that's the government policy anyway, is like absolutely get an electric vehicle. And I think, yeah, that's just emissions alone, and even better if you do have like solar panels that you're charging it up with, etc., etc. But that's like the actual kind of like emissions side of things. But the message that you're sending to all of the people that you meet, and like promoting it for kind of future and normalizing it, that's like absolutely invaluable and much harder to quantify, but really important as well. That's my opinion.
I love that. That was a very insightful answer that I wouldn't have thought about. Of course, it's not just doing it, but it's the impact that others start questioning their emissions and whether they should do it. And do you know what? The reason why I'm thinking about it, my business partner in Square One's just bought a Tesla and is making it. So exactly what you said is happening. So that was very insightful. And I'm glad I asked that question because I wouldn't have thought of that.
There you go, free carbon neutral advice for you all this evening as well. I see we have another question from Francois in the chat. So thanks for the inspiring talks. I was wondering if the scholarship could be used to fund training or academic research for a couple of months. I think I can answer that question. We wouldn't directly fund, for example, like a master's or a PhD project. So if you're already connected to a university, through that, we wouldn't fund that. We fund independent projects. That said, there's no reason why you couldn't conceive of it as an academic project, if that makes sense. If that's how you wanted to view your scholarship, you know, you wanted to go away and pick up some academic insights for use in academia, and you're an independent person, then I think that would be allowed. But in at any point, if I'm getting this wrong, rough Mick, but my understanding is, if you're already attached to a university, that's not what the scholarship is for. It's a separate entity. But we have another question from Francois as well. It says, Sam, as a scientist, thank you. I would add that most of the work has to be done outside of STEMs. The environmental transition is first a social and political challenge. So there we go. Okay, more of a comment. Okay, great. A question from Mick for Miles. Miles, are you in contact with the Association of Adult Social Care? And Sam, have you been introduced to the environmental agenda that the local government association runs? I guess Miles, to you.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Generally speaking, though, as a rule of thumb, there is so many fantastic organisations and charities out there, and I'm not going to put them all in one basket because I'm welcome to be introduced to any of them. But what I generally find is if we focus on giving the best advice and making it open on the internet for anyone to access, that's normally the way that people find stuff. Like if you want to answer a question, gone are the days of going to the local library and finding a book on it. People Google it. So what we try and do is create really good, not salesy content that genuinely helps people who've got elderly loved ones or just people they're caring for. And then guess what? When they search that question in Google, what do I do when dad goes missing? We're there. And actually, it's a good example of that is we've just done a free ebook on the guide to wandering. So people with dementia that go missing. It's a bit of a niche, as I said earlier, not that many people know about it. There's a lot of old information, lots of dangerous information, like people saying lock the door. If there's a fire, then that's not going to help, is it? So we decided, let's get all the best info, collate it, put it in an ebook, and we're now giving that away to people, as obviously it helps market us, but also put some good into the world. So very much welcome to be introduced to the Association of Adult Social Care. But what I tend to find is, as a small business entrepreneur, you can bark up a lot of trees trying to get in with people, then they want a cut of your sales and it all becomes very commercial. So I thought I'll just give the best advice, put it out there on the internet for people to find, and it's done a pretty good job of getting people to find us thus far. But please do, in fact, I'll Google it as soon as I've answered this question.
Can I respond, Tori, just to that? I think what you do is you enable things to happen. I think if the association could help facilitate your communication out to the world of social care, it's got massive cost benefits for local government. Now, the problem is you're a private entrepreneur. Local government doesn't tend to like private entrepreneurs being promoted through their own networks. They like to do their own thing all the time, but the world's changing. So I think I'll talk to you afterwards, because I know the president, etc., of this organisation, and therefore I do think there's something about enabling a connection there. So thank you.
Yeah, and I welcome that, and I'll finish with, you're right, it is changing, and actually a lot of local government are realising they're not very good at solving a lot of problems, and they're better off paying a company whose forte it is to solve those issues. And so we are seeing it change, and I certainly welcome that introduction, Mick. Thank you.
Tori, I'm so sorry. I have just spotted your hand up, so I'm guessing you have a question. Please do ask it.
I do. Me
Sorry,
again.
sorry. Sam didn't respond.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
Sorry, yeah, I think I've come across LGA in my current role, actually. I think they had a campaign called Pass the Planet, if I'm thinking of the same organisation. So, but I haven't connected that up with kind of the local authority work that I used to be doing. So if you were thinking, Mick, about the kind of USDN idea of having a network of sustainability professionals, that might be a really good avenue. I did reach out to UK 100, who are kind of a similar style organisation, and they were really keen on the idea of creating a network. But yeah, they just dragged their heels, and by the time they kind of got around to it, I'd moved jobs. But again, like Miles, really keen for any introduction, and would love to speak with them if you have a good contact. Thank you.
Lovely. I'll step back in. So my question was to Miles, actually, and I wanted to say that, you know, it's great to see your success, and it's great to see how the scholarship really helped you build on your already, you know, great ideas and seeing the gaps in the market. But you know, it's no mean feat to, you know, launch 2 successful businesses when you're 26. So I just wonder, how did you always see yourself as someone that was going to be successful, and did you just kind of push that through? Is it something you feel like you've learned on the way? And what advice would you give to people that are thinking about starting their own businesses like you have?
Fantastic question. Actually, this is one of the things I talk about. I've done a few talks for NTU and University of Nottingham about entrepreneurship, and also welcome if any of you guys are on the board of charities or events and you want someone to talk about entrepreneurship and not necessarily coming into it from thinking you would go into it, then I'm happy to do that. So you asked the right question. Actually, no, quite the opposite. I was always what people call a jack of all trades. I was kind of good to bang average in every subject at school, and actually that was quite demoralizing. I never thought, what can I go into? I'm pretty good at everything but not great at anything, apart from selling sweets to my fellow pupils at school. But that never dropped the light never came on, and it should do. My sister's a teacher, my mum's just retired from being a teacher, my sister's a primary school teacher, and on their enterprise day, guess what they did? They designed a uniform for the employees in their imaginary company. There's going to be anything more useless than designing a uniform. That's not what you're going to do in the world of business. So you hit an important light there, and something I'd like to do if one day I exit Tech Silver is to do something similar to what Peter Jones did and have some kind of enterprise education facility that can pick up people, particularly those from less advantaged backgrounds, who might end up falling into selling drugs using their entrepreneurial skills rather than selling phones to the elderly. I mean, let's be honest here, right? Entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs. What they sell is irrelevant. So I'd much prefer to spot those people and say, no, there is another option. You don't have to go and work for PwC. You don't have to become a doctor or whatever people say are the normal routes. You can go into entrepreneurship. So yeah, I very much wasn't planning to do it. I actually picked on business management and entrepreneurship course because I thought, well, not it sounded nice, but I thought, well, I've sold sweets to my fellow pupils. Maybe that'd be a good course for me. So yeah, no, I never thought I could. Sort of how was I able to do it? And this is getting a bit philosophical, but it's really important if any of you have kids or are thinking of having kids. Unwavering self-belief thanks to a fantastic upbringing. My parents really loved me and cared for me, and they took me to sports and they read to me from a young age. And my dad talked to me about biophysics when I was 11 in the car, you know, and like treating me like an adult. I'd sit at the dinner table and not be sat on the kids' table with a tablet shoved in my hands. And I'm not getting onto parenting lessons, but I genuinely think my self-belief, which is how I haven't thrown the towel in by now, was because of the upbringing I was lucky to have. We didn't have a lot of money, but I had a lot of love and a lot of attention to my future. And they always believed and was happy. I actually wanted to be a stuntman, believe it or not. So, but they were happy to support that. They weren't trying to pressure me to become a GP or something else. So that's how I've managed to do it. And no, I wasn't always planning to become an entrepreneur, quite the opposite. Advice, again, a really good one. And I've had this prepared. If you think about business or any entrepreneurial journey, really, it's just a series of conversations, right? Or whether it be your first customer, your suppliers, your accountant, anything else, it's just a series of selling yourself. Basically, you're selling you, because before you've got a brand, a logo, a website, or anything else, you're the business. And so the biggest bit of advice I could give someone is believe in yourself, learn your concept inside out, be ready to pitch it at the drop of a hat, like an elevator pitch at any moment, because you never know who you're going to bump into. And if you are an introvert, and you're like a coder and you've come up with this incredible new algorithm, find a co-founder who's an extrovert who can sell your idea, and you'll work perfectly together. But essentially, and I guess I can round up this point with my US opportunity. Mike, who is the global sales director of that GPS watch company, has given us exclusivity in the United States. We're a UK business with no American company, no American customers, and to be honest, way out of our depth. So I was pretty flabbergasted when he offered me that. But do you know why he offered me that? Because he believed in me. And part of that is because we've spent the time to get to know each other. I took him out to Brown's in Nottingham. We talked about life and we bonded. And he actually thought, you know what, this guy, even if he's got a long way ahead of him, I could tell he believed in me and believed that I could do it. And so people buy from people, nurture those relationships around you, you know, get to know someone's kids' names, get to know what they're into, and really get to know them, not just on a surface level. Believe in yourself and practice pitching who you are and what you do to the point where it can roll off the tongue at the drop of a hat. And that is how you get to be successful in business. You can pay someone to do the accounting, the branding, the website, the kitchen, and just about anything else, but you can't pay someone to be you, to be an authentic founder. And so that is the biggest bit of advice I would give. Be authentic, learn your concept, learn yourself, and be ready to pitch it at the drop of a hat. Silent clap. Yeah, it's not quite the same as a physical event, is it? But I felt it. Thanks, guys. I felt the clap.
I think you've sold us, Miles. If anybody needs to buy anything, Miles is your guy, I think. I guess I'll quickly follow up on that. Actually, I did have a question for you, Miles. Do you now see yourself expanding a physical business into the US? I know you said that you'll have 11 staff out of Nottingham and Nottinghamshire, which is incredible in itself and a real testament to the scholarship. But it looks like that's the way it's going, you know, with Grandpad based there, with your new watch partnership over there. How do you see that going into the future over the next few years?
Yeah, so in short, yes. And again, let me come off why those relationships are so important. So Scott, the CEO of Grandpad, who I met in that hotel in Houston, who again, Vodafone were the other company who were going to sell Grandpad in the UK, and he went with Silver. So I was, again, pretty amazed by that. I reached out to Scott and said, I'm going to be transparent with you. We're launching in the US. And I was concerned that he might think that's not a good thing. You know, I'm his UK and Ireland reseller. That means he could take the standpoint, Miles is going to take his eye off the ball. You know, we need to find another partner who's purely focused in the UK. But he took the exact opposite approach. Do you know what he did? He introduced me to his ex-FD, who is now going to be helping us grow in the US, helped us register a company, helped us navigate the banking system and all sorts of other legal and financial standpoints. He put me in touch with Acer, the computer company, the huge Taiwanese computer company. They're an investor in Grandpad, but they actually distribute the Grandpad across the US from their fulfillment center in Temple, Texas just outside of Austin. And guess what he said? Oh, I'll introduce you to them. And now they are our fulfillment center. So they're distributing the Tech Silver Watch across the US. I spent a few days in Temple with the guys, fantastic, really Southern hospitality, great Texan people. And Grandpad offered to do the customer support. In the end, we realized it was better to keep that in-house. And that's why I'm hiring those people in the UK. So, first point, you never know what those relationships can give. And I got as close to a Just Add Water US proposition from that relationship with Scott as I could have got, from the scholarship. But secondly, the US market is huge. We all know the population is massive, but just to put it in perspective, in the UK, there's about 850,000 people with dementia. In the US, there's about 6.2 million. So there's about 7 times the number of people with dementia. And if there's one thing I took back from the scholarship, and maybe Sam felt the same in terms of some things being behind and ahead, like the Texans in their Ford pickups, like I mentioned. And that was actually the US is quite behind when it comes to technology-enabled care. You've got your Googles, your Facebooks, your Amazons, but then there's a massive gap between that and the SMEs who deliver what we do. So they've got 6 to 7 times the market and much less supply. So there's hardly any competition. So I actually envisage the US business will become the parent company. That will be the main company with the most employees, the most people, the most impact, and the UK will be its little brother or sister. So in answer to your question, very much yes. We're employing people in the UK first because it's easier and we can get up and running quicker. But definitely as we grow, the idea is that the US will be the main business. So yeah, really excited about that. And I look forward to welcoming people in my home in Denver, Colorado, which I'm hopefully moving to next year. If anyone on the scholarship fancies a bit of Rocky Mountains, and yeah, really excited about operating the business in the US.
You heard it here first, folks. This is recorded as well, Miles, so we're going to hold you to that for our future scholars.
If you've seen the house prices in Denver, they might have to sleep on the sofa. I'm just putting it out there as that's recorded as well.
Hey, more than one scholar had to do that before, and quite happily. I see actually, maybe to wrap us up because we're approaching the end here, there's a great question from Mick, and I know we have a few scholars on the call and potentially, a few future scholars maybe, but Mick's question here is, we've got over 150 past scholars, and how do we better engage with them? This is something we've been asking as a management committee. So if we do have anybody on the call who has ideas about, ways that we could better reach out either to you or to fellow alumni, please do shout up. We do our best, but we're a energy rich but time poor team. So if there's ways that we could be better using our efforts to reach you, pop it in the chat, pipe up on here, that would be great. I guess just lastly, I'll maybe give an opportunity to Zaimal and Natalie here. You'll be leaving imminently, I understand. This might be a good opportunity for you if you have any questions. You've got a roster of previous scholars on the call here. Are there any questions that you have, or anything that you think you might benefit from asking of people who've been there and done it?
I was actually just typing into the chat that I really need to go because I was meant to be somewhere. But I think I'm just really looking forward to getting to know more of you over the next, months and years. And if anybody does have any advice or suggestions, I mean, the thing I ask every scholar I've met, and I've had loads of scholars reach out to me as well, which is just amazing, is how do you manage to, get your list to a manageable size and make it something that's a good balance, and that's something I've asked everybody, and I've had lots of really useful tips from that. And if anybody wants to share on that again, that would be really great, because I feel like that's my biggest challenge right now, is definitely that prioritization.
I can probably help with that. And think about what I was just saying about that relationship with Scott. I mean, really, that's one meeting in my scholarship has had the biggest impact, but that's because I was able to spend more time with that person. So you're in danger of overdoing it and not getting a deep relationship and deep connection with those people because you're just rushing it. So maybe pick the ones you think are most important or have the most opportunity, cut the fat, and then that means you can get that deeper connection with those few people. You know, less is more sometimes with something like this, and then that way you're more likely to have a relationship and a connection that lasts a lifetime.
Yeah, I'll just kind of jump in there. I was going to ask something very similar to Zaimal. I guess this is less of a question and more of a confirmation that I've made the right decision. So I think I initially planned to have quite a few different locations that I was heading to, and when I've kind of disclosed them to people, they've looked at me with shock and fear on their faces. So I've started to kind of scale back. So in those 6 weeks, I think I've kind of scaled it back to 6 different states that I'll be visiting, because I really want to you know, spend some time there and have time to not just kind of embed myself into the organization or company that I'm visiting, but also give myself that space to, you know, if I'm introduced to other people and kind of explore. So I suppose I just want to hear from other people's experience. I know Sam, you kind of said that you kind of, looking back, think that you could have done less, but also you wouldn't change it. But I just wanted to kind of hear from other people. Did you feel like you did too much or too little?
I'll let other people answer this because I've answered everything else.
I mean, for myself, I think some of it you will find naturally works itself out. So some things, even with your best intentions, you'll reach out to people and they won't get back to you. So some of it naturally gets weeded away just because you can't make it happen. So I think the thing is to kind of jump off of what Miles said a little bit. My experience is some of it is trusting your gut. So you might have a meeting or an engagement that you don't necessarily know will go anywhere, and you have that meeting and realize, oh gosh, I should spend more time here, or I should keep in contact with that person, or I should loop back round and see them again before I leave. And I would say trust those instincts. I think every past scholar you're not going to be able to anticipate everything that happens to you. It's impossible. And some of the best stuff that happens to you, you would never have guessed. So you have to kind of go with it. Thumbs up from Russ. Yeah, you have to go with it. I think your trip will unfold for you. So even the best laid plans will fall a little bit by the wayside. But feel free to contradict me, anybody else.
I'll add to that a really good bit of advice Russ gave me, which ended up being expensive. It's an expensive luxury, but try not to book all your travel in advance, because you might meet someone and they're like, oh, we're going to Yosemite, like, do you want to jump in the car? And like, that's the kind of magic you can do on these trips. And if you've, you know, I've got a flight to Houston in 2 hours, sorry, it just becomes more clinical and just like a business trip. So if you can, try and give yourself a bit of leeway. It is an expensive choice, and allow yourself to go with the flow, because that's kind of the magic of this trip, you know.
Cool, thank you.
Amazing. We're over our time, I realise now. So Tori, shall I hand back to you to wrap up?
That would be great. Yes, sorry, we're a few minutes over time, but it's been so good to be with you this evening. And thank you for your generosity and time, and for everything you do, you know, the advice that everyone's given tonight, but any, you know, way that you support the scholarship with connections and financial donations and enthusiasm, which is the lifeblood of this scholarship. It means a lot to all of us. So thanks so much to our speakers tonight, Mick, Miles, Sam, Natalie, and Zaimal. Unfortunately, she had to go away. And Sheridan, thank you for supporting behind the scenes tonight. It has been a great event, I think. So I just want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a great Thanksgiving if you're celebrating. Please enjoy Christmas and have a wonderful and peaceful new year into 2022 from all of us at the Roosevelt Scholarship. Thank you so much. Good night.